RU fans, Rutgers pulls off a nail-biter, a heart attack maker, 85-84 victory over Notre Dame. Revenge, I guess, kind of, for that double overtime, whatever it was, a loss in the play-in game a couple of years ago. Notre Dame missing their best player early, goes down with a knee injury. Agbole falls on him. So, still a lot of things to talk about and break down, quite frankly. Once again, defense is an issue here. Team still trying to figure itself out. If you look at the minutes breakdown, obviously Dylan Harper, I think 36 points, played 39 minutes. One of the most gifted, talented basketball players, especially driving to the basket, that I've ever seen, especially at that age and at Rutgers. Brilliant game from him. The last shot of regulation I didn't love. I don't know if that was a coaching decision. Dylan throwing up the three, but more than made up for it. And even with the made free throws in overtime. Allocco, my God, I know we wanted him at Rutgers. He's a Midwestern guy. He went home to play for Notre Dame. My God, the way Allocco kept coming through and nailing those threes, it seemed almost like it was it was between him and Harper, basically, to see who was the man of destiny tonight. And when he got the ball in his hands for the last shot with 3 seconds left, I was kind of, surprised he missed it. He got a good look at it, but how many times can you throw up a shot from that far behind the arc with a guy in your face and drain it? Finally misses it. Kind of bittersweet for Rutgers fans that he misses the last one to end the game. Really important win for Rutgers, but there's still a lot to do here. We kind of switched to playing basically small ball because you weren't getting a ton out of Martini. You weren't getting a ton, especially defensively, out of Somerville. Agbole, you weren't getting a ton out of. So now the most minutes you have Jeremiah Williams, you have Durkak, you have Ace Bailey, you have Dylan. And then you're kind of swapping around beyond that. They started Hayes. Hayes didn't last too long. Wasn't as sharp shooting as you would want him to be. So you kind of rotated after that. Acuff, has 7 rebounds. Durkak, again, rebounding the ball like a monster. Durkak actually had a decent amount of points this game. He had a couple solid threes there. And then he does follow through and hit his free throws late, in overtime. He hits his free throws. He drives to the basket. I believe that was, I can't remember. It's so late, I'm getting my overtime and my regulation mixed up. But he finally has a solid hard drive, gets a dunk. Durkak is the kind of guy I'm starting to see who is not going to wow you on the offensive side of the ball, and at times is going to frustrate you on the offensive side of the ball. But what he does with effort and rebounding, and when he does come through on the offensive side of the ball, it's pivotal. And then on defense, I've been saying, he's not some superstar defender, but the effort he gives and what he can bring is good, and he'll frustrate you on the defensive side of the ball sometimes too. But he's an integral part of the team because what he brings, and even when, he's having some moments where you're like, he's still pulling his weight. And another guy is Jeremiah Williams. Again, some liabilities you saw on offense here and there, but who hits a clutch 3 towards the end of the game? Jeremiah Williams. Who shuts down Shrewsbury really the whole second half for a big part of it. And Shrewsbury was killing us in the first half. Now Allocco kind of steps up and makes up for that somewhat. But who shuts him down and plays that effort defense? That's Jeremiah Williams. So you have a lot of role players. Another really tough game for Ace Bailey. I think it's becoming evident, and that's what I kind of guessed a couple games ago, that Dylan Harper was the guy. That's becoming more and more clear. He just plays so under control. He's just so smooth, and he seems so polished already in so many ways. Some of the shooting things and the defensive things, Dylan's obviously still got to work on, but so polished. Ace, supremely talented athlete. He will get hot again. He will have good games, but going through a bit of a cold spell here. Still scored, I think, 10 points, but, struggling. And not as polished per se as a Dylan. So how you spread out those minutes, how you divvy up the lineups is still a work in progress for this team. You need a little more on the boards from Ace. I don't know. In the beginning of this game, there was definitely more of a defensive effort. I'll tell you that. Definitely more of a defensive effort in the beginning of this game. It was evident early. But then, again, it kind of fell apart at some point. And I don't know if it's for lack of effort or just the team just doesn't have the defensive chops right now to really guard properly. But you got to figure something out where Ace is getting you boards, where you find out a good lineup that you're getting enough on the defensive and the offensive side, and it's tough right now. You have a superstar in Dylan Harper. You have another superstar in Ace who needs to really get that polish and get up to the well-rounded play in the college game, and also give this team what this team needs from him, which I think is a little more power play, a little more play and a presence down low, which I know is not necessarily his game, but he needs that. And then you need much more from guys like Martini. Just much more, shooting and defense and boards. And hopefully Acuff continues to come along, because I think Acuff can be a helpful player. Sometimes he looks like he's getting beat a little on defense too, but I like Acuff's game. I think you're going to see Acuff come along and be a pivotal part of the team as it goes here. I like him. PJ Hayes, great sharpshooter, a lot of energy, somewhat of a liability sometimes on defense. Early, didn't get a lot of run. Somerville, again, a work in progress. Great potential. So much offensive talent. Abilities on defense, but really needs to hone them. So, look, great win. Needed the win. Needed a neutral site win early against a legitimate team. We got it. It's huge. But now you got to hit the ice bath and get right back up for Alabama, who also had an overtime game with Houston today. Even if you don't beat Alabama, it's important to get that win versus Notre Dame. Would have been nice to beat Kennesaw, but that's water under the bridge at this point. You can't cry over spilled milk. But Notre Dame was missing, arguably its best player. And they still had some good players left. And we went to overtime. We struggled defensively. We're never gonna be a dominant defensive team. But Pikiell's got to figure out what works for this team rotationally, philosophically. None of those problems have gone just because we won the game. Super excited we won the game. We absolutely needed to win that game. It's incredible to see what this young man Dylan Harper can do. And it's interesting to see the pieces around him, but the pieces around him are not quite where we need them to be yet. And coaching has to figure that out, because you have a supreme talent. And Ace Bailey's still a supreme talent. But you got to find out, how do you get Ace to where you need him to be for this team? And how do you start, molding this team around Dylan Harper, who I think it's evident is going to be the guy this year. How do you mold this team? How do you best allot minutes? How do you best use these guys? We got to get there. I'm excited about the win. Some of my concerns remain the same. I didn't even break down the team stats. Hopefully I can talk to you before the Alabama game tomorrow and do that. If not, it'll do a whole tournament recap. But guys, please click subscribe. Thanks for joining me on this late night. Go RU. Larry K's out. Click that subscribe button.